What's going on, YouTube? If you guys want to know what you need to do in order to get ready for week 5 of Lambda School, then stay tuned. We'll be covering that shortly.
Baby, I don't understand it. You're changing, I can't stand it. My heart can't take this damage.
So what's going on, everybody? So week 5, I wanted to actually record outside. This is probably the first time that I got to see the sun and a little bit excited about it. So if you want to get through week 5 of Lambda School Project Week, you've already done everything that you need to do in order to prep yourself for it. In all honesty, because we're going to be going over all the stuff that we actually learned prior to starting Project Week. And so nothing new. Honestly, they don't teach any new lessons during that week. You are grinding. Your instructor is no longer your instructor that day. Your instructor becomes your boss. He tells you what you need to do in order to present a MVP, a minimum viable product. We have clients, and the client wants an architect website that displays their new company that they're going to be presenting to their board. And so that includes a main page and a project page so that they can display the stuff that they've worked on so far. Your job as a developer is to pretty much build that, add the functionality for the menus however they want it, and your instructor / boss will go over that. Now your PMs, they're kind of like your leads. They will go over your code, check your progress throughout the week, look into your GitHub, see what you're doing, see what you haven't done, and see what you need to get done. So you also have a Trello board that you go over. And this is my first experience with a Trello board, so I wasn't really all that used to it, but actually helps keep a lot of stuff in order so that everybody knows what you're doing, how long it's going to take you, and what you need to do next in order to complete your project for that day. I made my Trello board pretty simple. I just copied it, copied all the steps right from the README from the GitHub repo, and then just kind of pieced it all together into separate little parts that I knew that I could take care of in small components, such as the HTML and the CSS for the home page, and then a separate one for the HTML CSS for the projects page. Every morning and every evening I would move things around as I completed it, or if I didn't think that I could complete something, I would push something back, you know, and just move things around. That way your PMs can pretty much be able to keep up with what it is that you're working on. Keep in mind that your PMs / leads, they don't just stop working just because they can't really support you during that time. They still go through your GitHub and through your Trello just to see that you're still actually working, because nobody's sitting there telling you you have to do anything. There's no timer or nothing. You don't just come in the morning and then people get into a group or anything and then tell you to get to work. Like, no, you wake up and you have to kind of tell yourself to do it. So a lot of self-motivation, a lot of self-learning. If there's something you don't understand, you got to go out there yourself and find it. The project covered pretty much everything that I covered in my previous videos. So if there's something that you're lost and confused about, that's not the time to go over it. You don't raise your hand like because you decided to suffer in silence the last few weeks. We have a very big support system, which includes our instructor, our PMs, and other students that are going through it with you. There's a lot of people that you can ask for help whenever you're lost with stuff, on top of all the training kit information, all the websites, and all the instructions that you take live are recorded so that they can be uploaded later on so that you can watch it again in case that helps you. So a lot of stuff that you can do. You don't just have to sit there quietly and suffer. The project itself, honestly, this week was not that hard. There were some people that were able to finish the MVP like the first day. These guys are super mutants. I'm not one of those super mutants. It took me about a day and a half or 2 days in order to complete the MVP. And then from there you do the stretch goals, which add more functionality, add some animation, introduce new technology into it. Some people ended up learning a little bit of React. And so with that, they learned some React and kind of converted it all into React. And that's pretty much it. Week 5 kind of just came and went and wasn't that bad. It was just a long grind. You come in and sit down and nobody tracks you or anything like that. You pretty much have to have this self-motivation to work. It's like having a remote job. You're getting stuff done and telling your boss what you're getting done and what you have done, what you're having issues with, what might take you a little bit longer. You have end-of-day meetings where you go over what you did, so stand-up meetings every day still. But that's pretty much it. It's all just you and the code. Because I don't have a lot of stuff to cover, I did want to go over some motivational stuff, and this just was something that helped me out when I first started about a year or so ago, kind of just self-learning. A buddy of mine told me that after you write your first line of code, you know, you're a programmer now. You're not like an elite programmer or anything like that, but you're a programmer, you know. So before you can try to convince anybody else that you're a programmer, you first need to convince yourself. You need to tell people, hey, I do websites, I do software, I do this, you know, this is what I do. I'm a developer, I'm a programmer. It's a mindset that you need to have in order to continue. You can't continue with a I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer mindset, because then you're never going to reach your goal. You know, mentally, you're never going to reach your goal. You're never going to feel ready. Essentially, it all comes down to you and your mentality towards it. You're always learning, and there's a lot of stuff to learn. There's some people that'll tell you that this stuff is easy, and it really is not. I mean, there's so much stuff to learn. Like, yeah, there's free resources everywhere, and you don't necessarily need a boot camp. You don't. You can do this on your own. It's just there's so much resource out there, and a lot of it is outdated. Some people are still teaching var. Like me, I didn't learn about the word let or const until probably like 5 or 6 months into self-learning. And then even then, I didn't really fully understand it. So there's just so many different resources that you can go to, and so much different stuff that it's hard to know what you need to learn in order when you want to build a website, saying, okay, I'm going to learn how to build something. And the way I'm going to do it is by building a website. And a lot of people will tell you, like, oh, just go out there and build a website, it's easy. But then you start, like, you sit there and you're like, well, what do I put here? And what do I put there? How do I upload this to the internet? And, you know, there's so much stuff that you need to know that isn't covered everywhere. Start with the mentality. Before you start into everything else, start with the mentality of you're a developer, you're already a programmer. You know, start telling yourself that, and then move forward from there. Set goals for yourself. By this time, I'm gonna learn this. By that time, I'm gonna learn that. You know, and set achievable, maintainable goals and stick to them. That's one thing that I learned when I was self-learning was, you know, okay, I'm gonna set this time aside to start learning. I'm gonna go on Team Treehouse. Between this time and this time, I'm gonna be doing the JavaScript track. And between this time and this time, I'm going to be applying the stuff I'm learning from the JavaScript track on my own. That way I know that it's working. And then from this time to this time, I continue. So, you know, because I was working a full-time job, it wasn't easy for me to take entire days or anything like that off. So you have to kind of set a schedule. And so that's all I wanted to cover, guys. If you could just like, subscribe, share the video. It would really help me out. Appreciate it. See you guys next week.